Steve Elliott here again. Today I'm going to be painting a watercolour in Procreate 4. Hopefully it's a realistic one and looks like a traditional watercolour painting. Let's see what happens. I begin by applying a local colour to the whole of the paper, and I do that with sort of very soft washes, just as I would with watercolour. I'd normally wet the paper and blob colour in locally, so this is what I'm trying to achieve. Really subtle colours, not too dark or anything like that, just to give myself a ground and knock back that white paper so I can judge tones much better. Regarding the colour palette with this painting, I wanted to go with a very warm palette, so I'm sort of choosing purples and pinks, and the pugs I'm going with a split complementary scheme with green and purple. So sort of where the highlights are, I put a very subtle shade of green to glow through the purple, so I put that on as a wash before I start painting in proper. As usual, I'm working on a very large canvas, 36 inches by 24. After I'd finished, I thought it's a bit crazy working on something that big for a watercolour, because you would never paint a watercolour that size. But anyway, that's what I did, which limits me in Procreate to only 4 layers. So one layer is taken up with the line artwork, so that's now down to 3. Another layer is the main painting, so that's sort of the layer that sits above the line work. Now with watercolour, that's cool because it doesn't completely, with a water paint being translucent and the same effect in Procreate, you don't get a sort of a solid colour. You still get a little bit of the line work showing through. When I'm working in traditional watercolours, I never rub the pencil lines out. I like to leave them in. I always think they are part of the painting, so it's the same when I'm doing this. I like to see the odd pencil line in there. When I've finished, I might knock the opacity of that drawing layer down to probably 50% just to grade the lines off a little bit, but I do leave them in. So that's 2 layers that I've taken care of, one for the pencil, one for the main painting. Once I've got the colours down on the second layer, so the initial set of colours, I lock that layer and I create a third layer. So the layer I've locked becomes, if you like, the dried paper or the dried painting so far. So there is an initial set of washes on that paper. I then start painting into that on a third layer. So it's like painting over the existing paintwork that I've already created, and I will be working more shadows and deepening up the colour. So in the face I would be adding extra tones, and in the pugs I would be adding extra tones. And then once I've done an area and I'm happy with it, I merge it down straight away and then create another layer. So all the while, once I've got the initial colours in, I'm working on a layer on top of that, and as each little area gets completed, I merge it down all the time. I have to do that because I am restricted to 4 layers. Sometimes I might leave it for a little while and create a 4th layer and start working on that, but generally I'm sort of working on that 3rd layer and merging it down, creating it and merging it down. I don't have to worry too much about blend modes of the layers, because blend modes are now available in the paint brushes. So in the watercolour brushes, there is a mode and I can change it. The main brush I was using, I can't remember, I'll look that up. Okay, I'm back. The main brush I'm using is the wet glaze brush, and I would change the blend mode within that from between multiply if I want to darken the colour, and add if I want to gradually lighten it. And it really is a nice effect, and I love using the multiply to keep building up those layers without having to create a new layer all the time. I have to say, when you use the add layer, that isn't like watercolour painting, because you can't sort of lift colour out. Well, you can lift colour out with a watercolour. You can keep adding water and scrubbing it out with your brush and tapping it with a tissue to lift the colour out, but it's definitely much easier using the add blend mode. So that's what I'm doing with the brushes and the layers. Here you can see I've already got 2 layers of colour, or I suppose you would call them glazes if you was doing watercolour painting. 2 glazes on the face of the young girl, and I'm now going in with some more shadows, and I'm using a warm purple for the shadow because I want to get that impression that it's a nice sunny day. In fact it was a lovely walk, and we stopped in at a local pub halfway around the walk just to chill out for a little while. So I'm using purples on the face here, and this is in effect the 3rd set of glazes that I'm putting on to the paint, building it up nice and slowly. For the hair here, I created a new layer so I could put the hair in, and the reason I did that, I didn't want to damage the existing painting. If I made a mistake with the strands of hair, I thought if I create a new layer I can rub them out very easily without damaging what I've already done, then merge it down once it was finished. So once again, that is so cool to be able to do that, because traditionally it will be quite difficult in watercolour painting. You've got to get it right. You could lift it out, but it would be very, very tricky. It's worth saying that every square inch of your painting does not need to have detail in it, and you can have quiet areas of a painting. And what I mean by that, you can have areas where you hardly put any paint at all, or if you do, you're just suggesting a subject or some bit of detail, and you let the person that's looking at the picture fill in the detail themselves using their imagination. And I think you can make a painting much more evocative by leaving things out rather than trying to cram everything in. I see so many paintings where an artist has tried to do a photographic image, if you like, and they paint every tiny detail, and I just think it can be too much. It can be overpowering, and it takes away from the main focus of the painting. So don't be afraid to leave big areas of your painting very, very loose with little detail and just a splash of colour. with the pugs, I was a little concerned that I was going a bit too much with the purple. I didn't want them to look like a couple of alien pugs, so I decided to go over the colour with the next glaze with a much more blue colour. It was a blue-green actually, a sort of blue with a tint of green glaze to put over the initial colour, just to knock that purple back a bit and sort of give the impression that they are black dogs, not purple dogs. You can see here that I put a white rim light around the pug, and I put it on a separate layer, and I'm sort of toggling it on and off to see if I like the effect or not. Eventually I think I knocked the opacity of that rim light down somewhat so it's not quite so stark, and then merged the layer down, but I did leave it as a separate layer for quite a long while. Couldn't really make up my mind what I was going to do with it. Well, that's it. That's all I got for you in this video. I hope you've liked it, and thanks for staying with me to the end. I've really enjoyed doing this painting. It's been an absolute blast. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, because I've got lots more videos like this exploring digital painting and different apps. I'll probably be looking at Art Rage again soon. I've not been using that for a couple of videos. And if you liked it, a big thumbs up would mean a lot. Thanks a lot. See you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.